Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Jesse.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
We have a discussion between the Bible Go-To guy, who, by the way, is the authority of the Bible. We're joined today by J. Michaelson. He is a writer, scholar, and activist. He is the associate editor of Religion Dispatcher, and his work has been featured in the New York Times, CNN, NPR, and many other places. He holds a J.D. from Yale Law School and an M.A. in Religious Studies from Hebrew University. His newest book is God versus Gay, The Religious Case for Equality. We're discussing the article that he wrote for the Huffington Post, the story of Adam and Eve. And in that post, Jay says that Adam and Eve's story is about loneliness and love, not procreation. Jay, you also say in that article that actually homosexuality is quite natural. It is present in hundreds of animals and species and in every culture in the world. Explain that to us.
Sure. I mean, that's just the science. It's not really what I think is religiously important, because there are a lot of things that are natural that are not ethical. There are a lot of things that are natural that we wouldn't want, human beings to do. But once in a while, on this issue, sometimes folks, make some claim about what's in nature, what's in science, and one of the things that's new now, that's different from, let's say, 2,000 years ago, is we've observed a whole lot of animal species and of human cultures all around the world. We used to think, the world was flat, and we used to think that there were only, a few 100,000 people on the planet, and, we now understand from the varieties that we've seen. What I would call sexual variation. I mean, homosexuality is kind of a very specific term, but sexual variation is found in hundreds, literally, of animal species. There's some great books about that. There's a new one called Gay, Straight, and the Reason Why. There's another one called, I think it's called Evolution's Rainbow, but it's not really about evolution. It's about sexual variation.
Well,
and I think, we should be careful, I think, whenever we start making kind of scientific or pseudoscientific arguments, because those have been used for some pretty nasty reasons in the past, and I think we should stick to the values. But I bring it up just to point out that if what we're really talking about is what's found in nature, that gets to a different place from where a lot of people would think.
Baba, go to guy.
Okay. Shall we now take after animals for our nature? Some animals eat their own species. Some animals eat their own young. Should that be our example also?
So the question is whether we should use the term natural or not. I think if you and I can agree,
spiders
we
are natural.
Stop using it. So if you use it, then you have to use it all the time. So if what's natural is what's good and what's unnatural is bad, then you're stuck in the problem that you just said. Well, sometimes what's natural, like animals eating their young, is quite bad. So I say let's get rid of this concept. It's just not helpful.
Well, then
it's not a
let's do that.
concept.
Let's go right to the point. Let's go to
Yes,
ego. Ego is what destroys anything that's natural and actually natural and good. See, there's natural and bad, like spiders and poisons, natural poisons out there, earthquakes. There's things out there that are natural that are just not good for us, like animals eating their own species. We don't want to copy off of that. But there's also natural that's good. Fruits off of trees, the good fruits off of trees. Heterosexual sex, it produces young. There's good natural things out there. The air we breathe, all that is good stuff. Natural, it's good. But not just because it's natural is it good. We also have to see the difference between good and evil. And the ego prevents us from doing that. So the ego being something of other than God, it's a thing that's against God. There can only be one rule, one spirit guiding us. But the problem is there's two spirits out there. There's the spirit of evil and there's the spirit of good. And the spirit of evil can turn anything that's natural into something evil. Like it does with homosexuality, and a lot of other sexual perversions out there now that people practice. It has nothing to do with procreating a baby and getting it over with. Because how does sex overcome loneliness? Does anybody out there tell me how the function of sex overcomes loneliness?
Is that really a question? I mean,
yeah, that's really a question, because you seem to think that getting with someone and having sex with them overcomes loneliness.
How does sex overcome loneliness?
I mean, I guess that was a rhetorical question, but of course it's answerable. I mean, I'm in a lifelong relationship with my partner, and we share not just an apartment and not just a bed, but we share a life. We have everything that a family has, and so of course it's not about that's why earlier when I said about homosexuality, we talk about it's not really about sex, right? I don't have a lifestyle; I have a life. And I don't have a sex life. I have love. And it's love that heals aloneness. But, I'm glad that we've gotten rid of the unnatural-natural dichotomy, because I think that is really unhelpful. So I'm glad we've kind of made progress. We could just sort of set that, natural-unnatural question aside.
Not
because
quite
there are
so
things that are
fast.
natural that are good, and there are things that are natural that are bad. And so we know that natural doesn't really help us. It doesn't get us anywhere. The fact that homosexuality is natural and found in hundreds of animal species doesn't actually get us anywhere. So I win that argument, so to speak, but it's a pointless argument.
Why is it that when the gay people get together, two women together, or two men together, they have to go outside of their gayness to procreate? Because when God created Adam and Eve, he commanded them to go and procreate. So it's natural for men and women to come together and create a family. Why did he make it natural for two men or two women to come together and make a family? If God had wanted you to be together as two men or two women, why do you have to go outside to make?
Am I going to get to answer any of these questions?
Yeah, answer that for me really fast.
Okay, sure. So, love obviously is much more than procreation. There's plenty of straight couples who don't have kids, who can't have kids, and we bless their unions all the time.
No,
we honor them.
No, my question to you, why do you have to go outside of your gayness to have a baby if God wanted you together as a man and woman?
Well, why would an infertile couple have to go out of their infertility? We don't know the mind of God. That's arrogance, right? What we know is the reality.
But we do know the mind of God.
No,
what's wrong with you? You Jews who do not practice Judaism sound so ridiculous. Of course you're supposed to know the mind of God. Why do you think there's prophets? There's prophets who knew the mind of God, and they related to us the mind of God. The law relays to us the mind of God. Where is this coming from?
Let me squeeze in some calls.
It's like the world. I'm talking to a worldly man.
Let's go out to New York City and talk to Jesse.
Hi.
Hi there.
Hey, Jay. My question, I wanted to follow up on Jay's comment that we bless heterosexual couples who can't have kids. But also, there's plenty of heterosexual couples who choose not to have kids. We all just learned that 99% of sexually active women use some kind of birth control. And so I don't really understand the fear about non-heterosexual people. Why aren't you, how do you explain that most people, most of the time, choose not to have kids?
Okay.
Yeah, that's simple, Jesse. They're not supposed to be doing that. So if you see them doing that, why don't you correct them?
I mean, I'm not doing that. I had one kid. I have no plans to have another.
Are you a homosexual?
And that means you're not going to have any more sex.
No. I mean,
so what do you mean you have plans?
My sex life? I said I have no plans to have more children. Do you really think I'm not going to have sex until the next time I'm ready to have a child?
Let me ask you,
That's
Jesse.
the way it's supposed to be,
Jesse,
Jesse.
Are you a homosexual?
I identify as queer.
What?
I'm not a homosexual or a heterosexual. But my partner is a woman. How's that?
Oh, okay. But Jesse, you agree that there are heterosexuals who have chosen not to have children. But
definitely.
But it's
most
not
of 99% of them.
But see, it's not about choice. It's about ability. Homosexuals don't have the ability to have children with two men or two women. The ability is not there.
Unless they adopt or do a surrogate or, they have as much ability as a heterosexual couple.
No, they don't.
What? Two men have the ability to make a baby.
No, but yes, if they donate their sperm and
if they do all these weird tricks,
they have to go
science,
outside.
right?
Is it weird when
they have to go to a science lab.
All right, I got to run. Thank you, Jesse. Let's go to Ted out of Sun City, California. Ted, you're on with the Bible Go-To Guy and Jay Michaelson.
I really object to people using the Bible and the Scriptures to justify that kind of sinful lifestyle. It's not.
Ted, the way they use the Bible like the Genesis, the first part of Genesis, where it really doesn't speak of homosexuality directly. They like to use that to try to twist what its meaning could be, would be, should be. But if you go to Leviticus 20:13, if a man also lieth with mankind as he lieth with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. You can't mess with that scripture. There's
Right.
no.
Let's get a response from
It's
Jay.
it's very
Jay,
clear.
Hold on, Ted. Jay, how do you respond to that?
Well, sure, yeah. So the again, in my tradition, the Jewish tradition, one of the Bible commentators we most turn to is someone named Rashi in the 11th century. Everybody, Orthodox Jews, ultra-Orthodox Jews, we all hold by him. He says that what Leviticus is talking about is one particular sexual act. I mean, I don't want to be graphic, but it was one sexual act only between men. So this does not apply to women. It has nothing to do with most sexual activity, just one particular sexual act. And then that word that sometimes, I'm not sure if the Bible go-to guy could tell me what the word abomination, which is an English word, translates. But I can tell you. It translates the Hebrew word, which the word is toeva. And, I'm finishing my PhD in religious studies and Jewish thought. I know the Hebrew pretty well. And toeva actually means taboo that's connected to idol worship. Things that are toeva are like witchcraft and sorcery and statues, things like that. So what this text is talking about is one form of sexual behavior in the context of idol worship.
Right. So you say, and all the Jewish.
It's all
that I
confusion.
agree. I will agree, and absolutely, that one form of sexual act between men in the context of idol worship is prohibited by the Bible.
What act would that be?
Well, Jesse, I read this up to you. I mean, it's male anal sex in the context of idolatry. So it has nothing to do with women.
Oh, you mean it has to be in the
50%
context of them worshiping an idol? How crazy is that?
That's the language. What's
Right.
crazy
So
is the use of the word
only if you're worshiping an idol
abomination.
is male sex prohibited. Is that what I'm hearing from you? Is that what this Jewish scholar says? That even the Orthodox who oppose homosexuality say is true?
The Orthodox have a different view. That's why 80% of American Jews have this more liberal view, and 20% have the more expansive, the broader.
Well,
reading.
those are the same percentages of the Jews who were supposed to be considered the righteous.
One at a time.
The point that I'm trying to make is there are multiple ways to read Leviticus which is a very obscure text. It's not in the Ten Commandments. Jesus Christ said nothing about same-sex relationships whatsoever. It's a marginal text. So what we have to do, we could take a very broad reading, such that Leviticus absolutely forbids any homosexual
Jesus Christ
activity.
said nothing about homosexual relationships?
Hold on for me, Jay. Thank you, Ted.
Now, a
Yes,
man
Bob.
who is anti-Jesus is going to tell us that Jesus had nothing to say about homosexuality.
Oh, I'm definitely not anti-Jesus. Jesus is a wonderful teacher, and everyone in my tradition who I understand, looks to all Jewish spiritual teachers, Jesus included.
Jesus said there is no sex in heaven.
Hold on, Jay.
They asked Jesus. They said, Jesus, 7 men have had this woman. Whom shall be married to her in the afterlife? He says, don't you know men become as angels when they're in heaven? There is no sex in heaven. There is no giving in marriage. Now, if there's no sex in heaven, then there won't be any homosexuals, will there? And what did Paul say about homosexuality? Paul was Jesus' right-hand man. Half the New Testament is Paul. Go to Romans, 1st chapter. That will eat anybody.
I'm listening to you and other gay people talk about your gayness or your homosexuality. It's amazing to me that in America today, we all know that homosexuality, the spirit of it, is something evil and that we should help people to overcome it. But I'm just blown away in that the gays are now using the Bible to justify wrongdoing.
Well, they're trying.
Well, yeah, that we all is an interesting statistic. 60% of Americans now support same-sex civil marriage, and so it's not we all. It's, very few people are still holding on to this broad reading of Scripture, and the reason for that is that in order to have that reading, you have to close your eyes to reality.
And I just want to say,
you all can say whatever you like about my life,
and I want to say,
but you don't know it. I know my life, and I know my loving relationship with my partner. And I know that I'm going to synagogue this Friday night, actually, and I'm giving a little talk at synagogue.
But the devil goes to church. The devil can go to church.
Jay, you're a Jew, right?
I am, yeah.
Okay. Don't you know that it was the same percentages of people who accepted corruption and perversion and homosexuality and every other sin, worshiping other gods? It was the same percentages, 80 to 20, that caused the whole destruction of Israel, not once, but twice?
Well,
so you're proud of those statistics? All that's telling me we're close to going down the tubes.
The temple in Jerusalem was destroyed because of hatred. So it wasn't destroyed because of that. It was destroyed because
hatred of God.
See one another. Faithless hatred is what it was called.
Hatred of God.
The Hebrew term.
Yeah, hatred of God. Love of man, hate of God.
Actually, I'm sorry, but the tradition says otherwise.
Jay, let me ask you.
The Jewish tradition is that the temple was destroyed.
Let me ask you one final question before we. Jay, hold on. Hey, Jay, you call the man that you live with husband. Does he call you husband too?
Yeah, we actually prefer the word partner, but we use husband also.
And that doesn't sound weird?
You get used to it. There were a lot of things that used to sound weird to folks, and now we've gotten used to it.